Hello, and welcome to our second English speaking panel of the second edition of the International Burnout Awareness Week. This event will take place between November 29 and the next Friday, December 3rd, and we will broadcast live officially on YouTube. We're also experimenting the broadcasting on Facebook and LinkedIn, but the official channel is YouTube. There will be more than 20 panels from over 5 countries in English and Portuguese with specialists on the subject and people who have lived and are living through the syndrome. The purpose of this event is to responsibly raise awareness around burnout and help eliminate the stigma surrounding it, in addition to intensifying the dissemination of its causes, consequences, and treatments. The panels will be divided into tracks, including health and well-being, culture and society, the role of organizations, and burnout stories. In the first edition in 2020, the Awareness Week has attracted over 300 subscribers and panelists from 5 countries and broadcasted over 15 hours of content. This content is not a substitute for any treatment by a qualified healthcare professional. When listening to the stories, if you feel like you need help, contact a professional. We encourage the conscious consumption of content. Watch us when you can, the way you can, for as long as you can. It's a lot of content, and we do not expect you to be on top of everything all the time, just like in life. Some concepts may be a little bit complex to you or even triggering. If you need to take a break and breathe, that's okay. All the talks will be available after the broadcasting in the same links as they are now. The event is sponsored by Zen Club, a Brazilian mental health company that has a network of experts such as psychologists, psychoanalysts, and therapists. We're also grateful for the support of the Instituto Bem-Estar, a nonprofit organization from Brazil that aims to promote the health of the mind. And today I'm joined here by the amazing Thorsten Jonas, who is a UX strategy and the founder of the Sustainable UX Manifesto. We have talked last year about his story with burnout, and we're bringing him again this year. And today we're going to talk not only about his burnout story, but also what he has created and what he has been working on since he has had his experience with burnout. So thank you for being here with us today, straight from Germany. Hi, Thorsten. How are you doing today?
Hey, Carol. At first, let me say thank you for inviting me. Again, it's a big pleasure and a big honor to be part of this again. And I think not only me, but many really and highly appreciate that you put all the work into this and bringing this event to life, because I think as we also discussed last year, it's so important to raise awareness actually for this topic, right? So once more, thank you very much for bringing me here. I'm doing fine. Well, lots of work to do at the moment, but yeah, I'm doing fine, despite the fact that it's getting dark so early at this time of the year. That's the only bad thing.
We need to have a very good lighting, otherwise people wouldn't even be able to see us.
Yeah,
it's very dark outside already. True. So let's begin from the beginning, in case someone hasn't watched last year's panel, or also it's always, I keep retelling my burnout story, and every time that you retell this story, sometimes there's a different insight or a different twist to it. So why don't you tell us a little bit of who you were before you had the burnout, how did you identify it, and how it was for you to get through it?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I'm working in UX, so I would say like I'm a creative guy, right? And I worked in a digital agency for almost 11 years, and that was the time where I would not say ran into the burnout, but slided into it step by step in a long process. And so looking back at this from today, it's many things seem to be crystal clear, and I can see what happened there, what happened there. But back then I was not able to realize early enough what's going on. And even when I realized that maybe some things are not really okay, I was not able to turn into a better direction. Let's say it like this. And so I can tell it's this classic thing, the burnout spiral, where you fall into deeper and deeper over the month or even years. And that was what happened to me. I think trying to overcome, I think, problems or things that were lying deep inside myself for a long time, by working more and more. And it's not so much about the time, but even more about taking appreciation from others for my work, right? So I try to identify myself through my work, and I took a lot of energy from fulfilling things at my work, right? So it's like I was always trying to tackle these little voice deep in myself that was always telling me, you are not enough, you are not good enough. And so I was doing that more and more. And what happened then back at that time is that there was a change in the top management. And so I had the situation that there was this new CEO who was starting to question my work. And even if no one else actually was doing it, that was the only person. It was enough to, I think, gave me the final push actually to fully fall into it. Though I have to say I was already too deep into it to get out of it easily. And so in the end of 2019, that was when I, luckily not physically broke down. I was like feeling, okay, when I go back to work the next day, I will physically break down, fall down, right? And that was still a big luck for me, I would say, that I was able to realize that on my own. And so after realizing that, I remember it. I went to my doctor and said, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. Can you?" So here in Germany, I don't know how to translate it. So if you're sick, your doctor will what we call here write you sick, and then you do not need to go to work, but you still get your money from them. And so she signed me sick for 1 week, and that was on Monday. And I remember on Tuesday I started panicking that I need to go back to work next Monday. And that was really, from today's point of view, I would say interesting, though it's not the right word. And so I pretty soon realized, okay, that is let's say that is a bigger problem, right? And this is not, I will not overcome it with staying home 1 or 2 weeks. And so pretty soon I said to my doctor, hey, and she was a big help there, because she understood and said, yeah, whatever you need, just tell me. And so I stayed home for I think 6 weeks. That is the maximum duration you can do here, and still get your normal payments from your employer. And I got better. I did so since I'm a UX guy, I did what I'm best at, doing workshops and putting Post-its on walls. And I did my own workshop about myself, with myself, on my kitchen wall, and put, I would say, myself on the kitchen wall. And that helped a lot. Though I have to say that I think I already had the foundation, and I knew where to start from. And by that, I was able to do it on my own. The problem here in Germany is it's sometimes really hard to find professional help, because they all are overbooked with clients. And it's like, I mean, it's insane, right? You need to pick up the phone and call dozens of people to try to get someone who has time for you. And it's really, really hard to do so. And so again, I think I was lucky that I already had a foundation where I could start working, because it's not possible to do that without professional help. And that's what I always say, in my talks that I do, right? You need professional help. And that does not mean that someone else is solving your problems for you. It's just someone who's helping you going the way on your own, and that's what it is about. So after staying home for 6 weeks, I think I realized, okay, well, I felt like some things changed. I felt better, and I felt like, now I need to leave my known environment. Let's say it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I did something I wanted to do for a long time. I boarded a train to France and hiked the Camino de Frances from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port at the Pyrenees all the way through northern Spain to Santiago de Compostela, and even further to the literally end of the world, Finisterre, which was a stunning experience, I can say, and a really, really helpful experience for me, because I think all the stuff that I did back home at my kitchen wall, I think I was working with my mind, with my head at this time, and going this way. So what happens on this way is like you leave behind the starting point, and you are on the way for like a few days, and the destination is still weeks away, right? So, and there's nothing important. There's only important thing is how far do I walk or hike today, and where do I sleep, and what do I eat? And these are not so hard decisions, because it's not like hiking through the wilderness. It's like there are always villages, there are always opportunities to sleep. So it's a pretty easy hike if you're an experienced hiker, I would say. And by this, there's lots of time and space to deal with yourself, I would say, and to confront with yourself, because that is what is happening. You cannot run away anymore. You cannot distract yourself anymore. And so this is when all the things I worked on with my mind, I would say, started working at my heart back then. And it's, for me, that was a really, really important part on my recovery, I would say, because I think I relearned to smile. I relearned the joy of meeting new people. And because that was something before, which, well, it's not like that I did not like meeting people. I pretty soon felt overwhelmed by having too many people. I think that's a problem. I think many people have. That's what you call in English, I think, high sensitivity, which means you realize things surrounding you much more intense than other people. And it's nothing really special. I think numbers vary, but I think it's between 10 or 20% of the people that somehow are affected or gifted by that, however you want to call it, right? And so on the Camino, I think I relearned the joy of meeting people, also relearned to realize my own boundaries and see, okay, now I want to be by myself, and now I'm open to meet new people. And the cool thing on the Camino is, like, you can walk with someone for 1 or 2 hours, and then it's quite okay to say to the person, hey, now I want to walk alone again. And everybody understands. That's really great. And I made some great friends on the Camino, I can tell. And so that was really, really important for me, for my recovery. And so I returned. I was away for like 7 weeks, I think, only me and my backpack. And that was,
and how far did you walk? Do you know?
It's
You
almost 1,000 kilometers, a little bit less. So the normal Camino is about 800 or a little bit more, and then going to the sea is 100 more kilometers. If you do an extra turn, it's some more. So somewhere between 900 and 1,000 kilometers. It was the longest hike I did.
How long did you walk per day? Like, did you have an average, or depending on the day you would have?
Depending on the day. So I think the least I walked was like only 8 kilometers, because that was a day when I felt really, really sick and was like, okay, I can only walk up to the next village, because there I can get a hotel room where I can just lay down in bed and hope I'm better tomorrow. And I think the farthest that I did was like 45 kilometers. And
God.
Funny thing is, it was on not the last day before Santiago, but one day before. And I was just hiking because I felt like I wanted to hike. It was like, I just felt like I wanted to do. So after I already did like 750 kilometers, I felt like, well, today I want to walk more than 40 or
Let's do
not stop.
45 more.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
was, so it varies. And you walk like, well, sometimes you have to look, well, where are the next so-called albergues, so where you sleep, or some space, but usually you don't have to take too much care about this. But it's more like, yeah, how far do I want to go today? And that really varies depending on how you feel physically, mentally. And I think that's also an important thing and a great thing on the Camino. It's not about making an exact plan, so like planning the next 30 or 40 days and planning exactly where I want to go each day is more like you just start walking and then you walk. So when I went there by train, I did not have a ticket back. So I was like, well, I go to Santiago and then I'll see how I get back. There are enough ways to do so. And I think this is also really important, not setting yourself a limit if possible, but just start walking and see how long you need, how much time you need, and how long you want to stay there. Yeah.
That's really good. We were talking before that I think it's very important that we also bring a focus to this, to how important it is that we reconnect with nature.
Exactly.
When I had my first burnout, you were talking about yours, and I was also remembering things from my first burnout. And I went to Chile just like 2-3 months after I left. So I stayed at home for about 8 weeks, and then I went to Chile for a month and a half. That's how I ended up in the Netherlands, because when I was in Chile, I met a Dutch guy, and now he's my guy, and we're together, and I ended up in the Netherlands. But most of the time that I was in Chile, I was in parks, in national parks, and on the beach, in the desert. I went to the beach, to the desert, to the snow. And it was the kind of travel that I had never done in my life, because I really like to go to cities and museums and concerts. But for some reason, I had this very intuitive thing that I needed to be in nature. So I went there, and I had this idea that I had to put the world on mute. And I think what you said, that the only decisions that we have to do is where you're going to sleep, how far you're going to walk. When you're for so long and there's so much stress, it is so important that you start reducing the amount of decision making you're doing to the bare minimum, and then you start building from there. And I volunteered at an event here in the Netherlands right after my second burnout, when I was still recovering. And I still remember that I said I was an usher in an event. I was just checking if they had the wristbands. That was my only job. And I remember that the most difficult question I had to answer all day was, where can I get a coffee? And for me, that was so interesting, so powerful, because I came from a profession that I was leading. I was dealing with complex questions and issues, and several moving parts and projects and several clients and several things at the same time. And I had to think a lot every day. And there I could be useful, just saying good morning to people. And so being able to enjoy these simple things is so important. And coming back to nature, it is already, we have lots of evidence on how connecting with nature is good for our health, reduces our stress. So tell us a little bit, because you were still, last week you were hiking again, so you're still a hiker, and this is something that you're still doing. So how do you incorporate nature, being someone who lives in a city? How can you do that after your burnout, that it's still being helpful for your health?
Yeah, I think it's two things. At first is just going for walks sometimes already helps a lot, and sometimes just going a few kilometers out of the city to the next wood or whatever sometimes already helps in difficult situations, or when you're really stressed. At least I can tell it's for me. Sometimes it's only the 1 hour walk in the next park. But even more important is, getting, how to say that, totally outside. So outside of your normal environment, I would say, outside of the city, outside of all these distractions around you. And that's the cool thing about, well, at least, or at first, walking, because it's like, well, you do something, but it's opening your mind to think or feel about things. And, well, being in nature really, I would say, it really grounds me every time I do it. It's so when I had a stressful time and then I go for a hike, let's say a 5 or 6 day hike or something, it's like it needs, or it takes some time until I feel that that I'm, how to say that I'm coming down, right? So that I'm, or calming down, let's say it like this. And because, as well, it's these little things. You hear birds singing or something, or so. I really love going to the mountains because I really love just looking to the distance, right? And I love climbing up mountains and standing on top there. And, well, it's also about achieving something, for sure,
Yeah.
but it's also about, I can sit for 2 hours on a mountain, which also always brings me in trouble, because it's like then I need to go all the way back down and to the next place where I can sleep. But it's so beautiful just sitting somewhere in nature and looking to a horizon that is far, far away. And I think also, or what I at least experienced for myself, is like, if I'm having, well, what can happen, right? If you have a really stressful time, it can also hurt you physically. You can feel pain somewhere in your body. So, for example, for me, it's like, I have problems with my how's it called, lower leg for some time now. I think it's a mixture of, well, maybe I did too much training and running, and then there was the hiking in the mountains and the climbing, so many things. But also, I think also maybe too much stress. And so what I can tell is, when I just go outside to the next nature place from here and just sit there and do a little meditation, the pain gets better. And this is what nature also can do. It's not about, it's nice. It's also about, it really can help you physically, and you can feel that. And I think this is so important, because, again, it's like, I think when you're at work, when you're at home, when you're just walking around the city, it's too often always about, okay, now I'm doing this, and what do I have to do next? We always have this list of things that we need to do, that needs to be done, or where we think that needs to be done, because I think that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Very often it's not about that these things really needs to be done. It's just we think they need to be done, or we think they are important. And going outside, going to nature, is like, I think it's putting all things back into the right order, and or giving them back the right priority, and feeling, okay, what's really important and what's maybe not. And for me, this really helps, actually, just going outside, or, as I said, going to the mountains. I did this year in summer, I did a hike in the European Alps, and so did I last year when I hiked over the European Alps. That's also pretty hard sometimes, because all these up and downs, but still, it's so nice. And it's like, when you do this, you see, okay, all the problems I saw at, let's say, at my current project or whatever, hey, whatever. It's the world turns however this goes out, right? And I think this is, or that's why it's so nice to just go out there, because it helps you to put things back in the right order. And it helps, well, if you do it, as I said, if a few day hike, but it also can help if you do it just for one day. Take, well, I don't know, borrow a car, rent a car, whatever, take the train, go outside of the city. And this always helps me, because it also put aside the timetable that I have in my head all the time.
Yeah.
So right, and if you're in a daily life, you always have these timetable. I have to do these things, then I have to be there, then I have to do that. Next meeting is then, next whatever call is then, and yeah, being outside is just like, okay, yeah, whatever. I want to sit here, I sit here for the next hour. And this is, yeah, really helpful for me. And I always recommend that to other people as well. Just go outside, and yeah, without any timings in your head, if possible. That's the great thing.
It's a really good exercise. So now you have behind you the Sustainable UX logo, and I would like to know more, and also that you can tell us more about what is the Sustainable UX, and also how it is for you, having had a burnout, being back to creating something so meaningful and that has been involving so many moving parts. Do you feel a little bit afraid that it's too much stress? How are you handling that? And because I see that is something that when we have a burnout, we go back to work and we're always afraid that we cannot compromise too much, we cannot commit too much, we cannot do too much. So we can often stay at a place where we get scared of getting stressed, and or we just go for it and then just burn out again. So finding this balance between, actually doing something and doing something that is actually meaningful, and going over the top again. How is it for you? How is it been with you? And can you walk us through and tell us a little bit about the concept of this sustainable UX? Because I think it's very important for us as well.
Happy to do so. Because, well, funny thing is, I think the idea started at first last year. So for my talk I did at the Adobe Max about the burnout. Before that, I think I had for a long time in mind the idea of, hey, how can I use the stuff I do in my daily work and maybe use it for good impact, for change, to do something good, and not only to build the next app or the next digital product or whatever for someone, for some company. And so at first I had the idea, I think, 1 year ago, when I prepared the talk for the Adobe Max. And well, then it took some time because, well, other things were going on. And I got back to the idea for the UX Copenhagen conference in March, because I talked to the organizer of this conference, Helle, and she said, yeah, well, that's a great idea. So I gave a talk about burnout there as well, and we were talking about these sustainable UX stuff as well. And she said, hey, yeah, that's a great thing. Maybe we do a workshop about this and put here at the conference and make the community work on this topic. And that's when the idea took the next step. And again, it took some months after that to move on, because I was asked to talk at Adobe Max this year. And then I was like, okay, that is maybe a great idea to bring up this topic, to invite people to join this idea. So we were like a group of 7 people already working on this. And so to bring this idea to a broader audience and try to invite people to say, hey, do you want to work with us on this idea? And so the idea of success, sustainable UX, at first we were thinking about the manifesto, and then we were like, well, maybe we do not need another manifesto, because there are many great manifestos out there. And so what happens if we create another manifesto? We put it on a website, and then we get like 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever people signing it. Well, yeah, sounds great, and it's a great story to tell, but nothing changed actually, right? Because for what? And that's why we thought, okay, we need to do something else, a more practical approach, create tools and ideas that UX designers and designers can use to drive sustainability in their work, to be more sustainable, but also drive sustainability with their colleagues or clients and all these things. And so we put together or one person actually a great workshop toolkit to give it to people and say, hey, you can take this and work on one or more of the sustainable development goals of the UN to create ideas how to drive sustainability in our daily work. And so now, like 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, so in the beginning of November, we did the kickoff of SACS, and we got more than 100 people joining this kickoff from literally all over the world. Well, most of the people were from Europe, but we had like people from, I think the farthest was from New Zealand. There was a person from South Africa. We had several people from Latin America already talking about, hey, shall we translate it to Spanish to tackle more people there? So that's on the agenda. For example, now we had several people from the US. So literally people from all over the world, which is pretty cool. And more than 100 signed up to the group work that we offered. We said, hey, here's a toolkit that you can work with. It leads you through a series of workshops where you can tackle an SDG, so Sustainable Development Goal, and create ideas with well-known UX methods. And yeah, more than 100 people sign up, and we just started the group work. I think, we sorted out the groups 1 week ago, and they're starting to work right now. And it's so nice to see that so many people are willing to do something, right? To spend time working on this. And this is a great feeling to do this. Still, it's also much work to do there, because it's like organizing this and then handling so many people is stressful. I can tell. And I have moments in these days where I feel like, oh, it's so much, and where I'm sitting like until night doing this. And it still feels good because you have the feeling you're doing it for good, right? But it's also important to not to lose yourself, I would say, working on this. And it's a challenge, not to do too much and to see, okay, what's going on and these things. So I would say, it's sometimes a challenge, but it's nice to work on something where you feel like, okay, you're doing something with a purpose, right? And this is great. And I think so the whole team is really looking forward to the outcome of these, to the outcome of the groups. And well, we plan to release the Sustainable UX Playbook. So we changed the name from the manifesto to Playbook, because that's what we want to build. And to release the first version of the Playbook by March of next year. And that's quite ambitious, I think, to get it done until then. And I don't know if we can make it, but we will see. And I think the great thing is that it's not over then. So I'm talking to, for example, to people from companies, from agencies who ask, hey, could we join with our team or with a team of people from the company? And that's so cool, because we can give them just a tool set and say, yeah, you can do this. Grab an SDG, take the toolkit and work on it. You can make your own timings and do however you want. And I think and I hope that more people will join over the next months, and that we will have more groups working on this. And so yeah, I think there are so many more things we can do there. So we were talking about, well, we definitely want to do some sort of podcast, because not only me, but we all meet so many interesting people who are somehow um, driving sustainability in design and UX, and that would be so great to have just, yeah, a podcast series talking to these. So I think we are still at the beginning of this idea, and it's more about doing it step by step and not everything
Yeah.
everything at the same time. Um, but yeah, it's, for me, it's a great feeling actually to do something that, well, my work at the agency also made sense in the past, but to have, yeah, to give it, to do something that with a purpose, yeah, as I said. And
Yeah.
this is really great. Well, and well, everyone who's interested is invited to join us. We have like a community. So we started this at this year's Adobe Max, which was like in the end of October this year. And so the community already grew to, so on Slack, we are, I think, more than 350 people now, and on
Wow.
LinkedIn, it's like, I think we are almost 500 people now, and that's
Wow.
so cool to see that. See, yeah, okay, in the Slack community, you have like 350 people, and 100 of them are also working actively in workshops on ideas, and that is really great. And I think we are really hoping that this still grows, because it's like, and that was also important for us when we started it. It's not about a small group of people creating some ideas. The more people join, the more ideas we can create, right? And so it's the power of the community, actually. And what I always see when I talk about this project, at events or whatever, I see there are so many people out there who are willing to do something, but,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we all know this feeling that we somehow, or sometimes have problems to integrate that into our daily work. We are lacking like tools or ideas how we can integrate it in our work. And this is, I think, what we want to solve with SUX, the Sustainable UX Playbook,
Mm-hmm.
to have a playbook of ideas, of tools, of methods that you can use, being it just very small things or communication helpers, what to say to your clients. And so yeah, really looking forward to the next month, and we are really curious about what about the outcome, and and where we will go from here, and how far we will go. Yeah, and it makes me happy, although there are stressful times sometimes. But still, yeah, as I said, I think it's more about maybe grabbing the time to do this stuff from somewhere else, right? To
Mm-hmm.
see, and even if you do not make money from this, and it's not built to make any money from this,
Mm-hmm.
so it will always be a non-profit thing and idea. But it's more about, yeah, grab the time from somewhere else, and not thinking about, okay, this is too much work here. And well, I'm in the lucky position that I can afford to do it, and
Yeah.
and that is a privilege, for sure, and everyone can do this. But when you're able, again, it's about priorities and what's important. And if something is less important, then you have to spend less time on it, and maybe it's less important.
Yeah. This is really cool because it's a incredibly collaborative project.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I have only met you after you had your burnout. So were you did you use collaboration as much before?
I think so. I think so. The feedback I got always
Mm-hmm.
from my team. So I led a team of UX designers in the agency I worked, and I was always, I would say, standing up for my team,
Mm-hmm.
and protecting them, and
Yeah.
trying to help them to get better. My problem was that, so what I did too often, I think, is to protect others. I put more workload on myself.
Yeah.
And I think this is also part of myself, right? So and that was sometimes, or maybe too often, the problem back then. And it's also, I still have the issue, I think, that sometimes I have to not to do everything on my own, but letting other people's also step in, or trying to catch other people to do whatever, right? And so yeah, I think I did this before, not in this or not at this scale, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really impressive to see that you can um, mobilize so many people. And as I said, then it's like still you need to organize it, and that's our biggest task and challenge at the moment, is to give the people what they need to work, to lead them as much as necessary, but not more, and to channel this energy of so many people. And it's a really interesting experience, I think. And I would say, if I look back to the burnout, I could say, if the burnout did not happen, well, and I always say this, if the burnout did not happen, I wouldn't be where I am today, right? And even this maybe would have not happened, because, as I said, the first idea was born when I prepared the talk about my burnout at the Adobe Max conference. So that's actually when I registered the domain for this project at the
That's
first
how you
time.
know you're starting a project. You
Yeah,
register the domain.
exactly. That will never change.
Yes.
And so I could say, yeah, maybe without the burnout, I would not have started this idea, and I would not have met all these people. And because, again, through my talks about burnout, I met a lot of people. I think during the pandemic, I met more people than I did ever before. Well, and I would say I know a lot of people all over the world, from my projects before and things. But still, through the pandemic, I met even more people, and that's also an important basis, because it gives you more, how to say, more reach to reach out to people, right? And to tell them about their idea, and then they can decide if they want to join or not. And so in the end, again, and I always say that in my burnout talks, in the end, everything makes sense and happens, or happened, for a reason. And I could also map this to the whole sucks project and idea, for sure.
Yeah. One thing that I find really fascinating about the sustainable UX is that you're declaring, we're already doing this, we already have the skills. And we often, because in case there's probably a lot of people who are watching who don't know exactly what UX is. So you're designing the interface. So wherever you're watching on YouTube, so someone has designed this interface in some level. So the red button is there for a reason. And these are professionals who are dedicating themselves to improving our experience. But there's a lot of organizations, and a part of that is working towards making us consume more, making us spend more time on social media. And it seems to me like it is a very good timing for a very needed response on we have some people have built tools that will keep us addicted to social media, that will keep us adding things to the shopping cart because it's more convenient, and then our finger does something, this and that. And now we are presenting with an alternative that is, we also want to work in projects that make sense. We also want to have a positive impact, and we also want to be part of the conversation. And I think it ties up to what happens after you have a burnout, which is you are under this wagon of the culture of work, and you need to work a lot, everything needs to be difficult, and there's a lot of these pressures, and some people go through harassment. And then after you overcome that, you realize there's different ways of doing things, and that it doesn't have to be necessarily that way. There might be alternatives. And I'm a person who ends up thinking about alternatives that are directly related to mental health, but it's also extremely important that in other industries, people are thinking of other alternatives that will end up impacting our mental health indirectly. So I want to congratulate you for the project, because it's also collaborative, and it's amazing to see that you have, from when we met, you're already thinking about it, but now it's out in the world. So it's really good to see that that's happening. And to finish, I still have two questions for you. The first one is, throughout this week, the majority of our panels is in Portuguese, but even the ones we have in English, we have Kathy, and then we have Jerry, and myself. And in Portuguese, we have almost 40 panelists. And from the people who have gone through burnout and they're openly speaking about it, there's you and two other men, from almost 50 people in total. Yesterday we had a panel in Portuguese with several people telling their burnout stories, and there was a guy in the chat asking, doesn't men have also burnout? Where are the men? And then we said it's nearly impossible to see a man talking about it, and the books about burnout are written by women, and the talks about burnout are being talked by women, which is great and necessary. But I also really like to see you, a man, also talking about that. So how is it for you, and how do people react when you talk about mental health?
I think the good thing is that almost all people react really well. How to say that? Kind is maybe not the right word. Really positive on this, and I always get the feedback that people are really thankful that someone is just talking about this. And for me, it's like sometimes, or especially in the beginning, I was like, okay, yeah, but I'm just telling my story. It's not like I'm doing something extraordinary here, right? Or something greater. I'm just telling my story. I did not write a new story. I'm just telling what happened. And that was also a big learning for me to see, okay, just doing this seems to help people out there. Just hearing that story, that is for me not a big thing to tell this. And so that's, yeah, whenever I talk about this, I always get these positive feedback. Interesting thing is, because you mentioned that, I also see that, so whenever I do a talk and all the discussions and talks afterwards, mostly are with women, and it's a lot less men actually who are there, but it's a lot less, I think. So when I look at my close friends and other friends, if you talk to people one-on-one, you very often hear that, yeah, I have similar experiences, maybe not this far, but I know this. And so, and in a one-by-one situation, also men open up, at least if you start the discussion and tell your story, or when they know that you went through this. So because, well, the thing is, it's not like men do not have this problem, and it's there. Or I think it's still, for men, the potential stigma is still much bigger than it is for women, because it's, how to say that in English, it's not man-like to be mentally ill. That's bullshit, we all know this, but it's still there, it's still out there. And so I also can tell, for me, So sometimes when I in the past, so in the past year, when headhunters approached me for a new job or something, and I got to talk with or HR people from companies, I always use my story. I tell my story to see how they react, because that
Yeah.
gives me a crystal clear picture about the culture of a company. When you tell your story and you see how they react, if they like it, or if they more like, yeah, okay, that's interesting, but I have to tell you the job is really stressful, blah blah blah. And
Uh-huh.
then you learned in just
It's
two
a red flag.
sentences a
Yeah.
lot about the company, right? So this is really helpful, and I think this is why it's so great that people like you are doing this. And and I'm happy that I can add my very little puzzle piece to this, to to raise awareness, and just to tell people, hey, that's normal, that's part of our society. And it's like, well, we all know this. Most people that are unable to work are so because of mental issues or mental illness, not because they break a leg or a hand or an arm or whatever. And that's a fact. And I think we are on a good way as a society. So things are changing, but it's not like we are at the end of the way. We are more at the beginning of the way
Yeah.
still. And we are talking a lot about mindfulness and these things.
Mm-hmm.
So this is yeah. Many people are talking about this, and we need, at the companies, we need like a yoga room or whatever. But if it comes to the, let's say, to the hard stuff, so if it's about people are really being mentally ill, then it's
Yeah.
still something, well, where you are not talking about. And this is
Yeah.
still a problem. And therefore it's so nice that someone like you is doing this here, because it's just important. And it's, whenever we talk about this and there's only one person that got something from it, and that felt, or that felt being helped a little bit from it, or got some confidence, or got the feeling that, yeah, it's okay. Because in the end, it's about showing weaknesses, right? And we all have weaknesses, and it's so much felt like, yeah, being mentally ill is, I'm totally weak then, and then I'm not able to fulfill what society expects me to do,
Yeah.
and also in the job, and blah blah blah. And and therefore it's so important to make it normal to be weak, and to be mentally ill, or just to, well, not always being mentally ill, but just to feel sad, right?
Yeah.
This is also, it's okay, it's part of us. Because, well, in the end, if there were no bad times or no sad times, then all the good times would not make sense. Because then, if everything would be good always, it would be just normal, right? You need the bad things to define the good things, actually. And yeah, as you said, it's interesting to see that these cliches are still there so much. And as I said, I really hope I can add my little piece to this, on the way of changing this. And it's like everything, it's a long way. It's step by
It is.
step. It's not you do one thing and then everything is better. It's a step by step thing. And if I just can do something by telling my story, that's great, and that's good. And yeah, it's a good feeling for me, actually, to see that you can be a little impact there at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. You're putting your piece in the puzzle for sure.
Mm.
Thank you so much. For as the last question, what transformations do you see that burnout may cause and may provoke a positive change, that we might see, we can hope to see happening individually and also collectively?
You mean the burnout itself, or?
that because of what we have, because of what happens to us when we have a
Mhm.
burnout, it changes us.
Yeah.
So if there's an opportunity to grow individually and collectively, what do you see that could be?
Mm, well, I think is for me, I can tell it, the burnout, I would say, forced me to get get back to myself, I would say, and to get deeper into myself and to learn about myself. Because the thing is, it's not like you're going through a burnout and then afterwards everything is fine and then you will never again have any problems.
Yeah.
It's more about learning about yourself and learning about the dark sides lying deep in yourself, and you, it's always not about erasing them. It's more about, I think, understanding them and learning to handle them. And so in the future, I think this is what happens to me. I still have bad times, and I will always have bad times will happen. But so the difference to like 5 years ago is now I can see when certain triggers are triggered
Yeah.
by situations, and I can react to them because they do not, this do not, or does not push me into a deep hole again. It still makes me feel bad or sad or whatever, but I can put it in the right relation, I would say. And it's not like the whole world is crashing down like it was in the past. It's more like, okay, this is bad, I'm feeling really bad, but I have tools at hand that I can use to avoid myself falling into a deep black hole again. And so, as you said, it's about transformation, and it's all about also about learning about yourself, and by this being able to well, not only accept yourself but to love yourself as you are, because that's what it
Yeah.
is about. You are, we all are what we are, right? We, it's not about changing yourself, it's about accepting yourself as you are, and accepting that there is good times and bad times, and that, well, there's times where we are healthy and times where we are not. And yeah, to learn to treat yourself maybe also better, to learn what is good to you. And for me, it was also important to learn that it's sometimes okay to say to somebody, no, I don't, well, I don't want to do this now, or I don't want to do that now, which I was not really good at in
Yeah.
the past, I can tell. And so yeah, again, it's about learning about yourself, I think, um, on a mind level, but also on an emotional level. And this is, as I said earlier, without the burnout, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I always say this in my talks, and I do not regret that I went through this. I'm more, maybe thankful is not the right word, but something like this, because as I said, it brought me to where I am today, and that is great. And sometimes it's also about trusting in the way of life, I would say. And I'm not a really religious person, but sometimes it's good just to believe that in the end everything will be good. So for example, decision making was a huge topic for me in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to realize, okay, whatever I will do, everything will be good in the end. Whatever decision I will take, all options will lead to something good. And this is really was a really important learning for me. So again, it's about transforming, yes, but also about learning about yourself and treating yourself different or better, and learning about priorities, and learning about what's important and what's not. And so it's, well, I do not wish people to go through a burnout, but I sometimes hope we should not be afraid of that it can happen, I would say. If it
Mhm.
happens, yeah, that's a bad thing, but then it happens for a reason. Something caused it, and then you will have a really bad time. But it also is the chance to overcome these issues that caused it in the
Yeah.
end, right? And so, yeah, for me, I had a really bad time, but as I said, it brought me where I am today, and that's a good thing.
Very, very well said. Thank you so much for being here again. I'll see you in the third edition.
Hopefully.
Yes, with the playbook taking over the world. And I
Yeah, we
really
will see.
appreciate you telling your story, you sharing your story, and you trying to build a better world in the way that you can with your capabilities and understanding your limitations and spreading the message, which is really important. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure, and as I said, and an honor to be here again.
And thank you for watching. Thank you for your time and attention. They are immensely important to us. Our next panel in English will be on Thursday with Dr. Jerry Puleo about why employees burn out and what leaders can learn from it. It's going to be at 5 p.m. European time. And our stream of panels in Portuguese will continue today. We're going to have a panel about slow life, which excuse me, that I'm going to say it in Portuguese. Desacelerar para não surtar. It's going to be in about 15 minutes. And it's going to be mediated by Isabela Camargo, which is our supporter here in the event. If you want to request a participation certificate in Portuguese, I'll be leaving the link here in the chat for whoever wants to request it. And thank you. A lot of people here thanking, appreciating you. Amazing.
Thank you.
Help us spread the word about the Burnout Awareness Week. Share the event with your network and use the hashtag Burnout Awareness Week on your networks. Help raise awareness and find stigma. The content we are sharing here with you can be very useful to someone close to you. I'll see you in the next panel. Take care and goodbye.